Welcome to Forensic Friday, where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing, and that's right, my makeup. I'm really upset that you guys can't see my Goosebumps tea. It is the Werewolf of Fever Swamp Goosebumps tea. I'm just like, this literally came in the mail. I haven't even washed it. I smudged it, but I haven't washed it. We forgot to put in our earrings. Can't forget that now, can we? Ooh. Lucy says hi. Today's video will be featuring the BH Cosmetics 2000s Dance Remix palette. One of them did break in here. I tried to squish it back in as best as possible. Like the 80s and 90s palette, this palette is full of shades that are named after 2000s, well, I think early 2000s dance songs. So if you guys are into that, go pick it up. I've just been having so much fun with these palettes. All the other items I'm using in this video will be linked in the description below. Please read the disclaimer. I'm in no way, shape, or form a professional makeup artist, beauty student, MUA, beauty guru. I also don't do anything in criminal law, or I'm not a forensic pathologist. I don't go to school for this type of stuff. I'm just the average girl at home like you, planning makeup and talking about true crime. So if you love true crime and makeup, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future episodes. And let's get into today's case. This all takes place in October of 1995, where Debora Green and Michael Farrar lived. The two of them met while working at the University of Kansas Medical School. They were married in 1997, only a year later. Now, Michael, he was a former Eagle Scout, and he was 4 years younger than Deborah. Get it, Deborah? Shoot. Anyway, he was on the path to earning his medical degree. Michael went into cardiology, while Deborah specialized in oncology and hematology. Now, it is said that both had near genius IQs, which is it's up there. Over the years, they raised 3 children, Jennifer, Timothy, and Kelly. They lived in a very nice, concealer in my hair. They lived in a nice suburban neighborhood. It was a very affluent neighborhood. Now, to everyone else on the outside looking in to their family situation, they seemed perfect. They seemed like the perfect family, which we all know there's no such thing. Trust me, no such thing. Things aren't always what they seem. Michael and Deborah's marriage was starting to show some really troubling signs. I mean, it was pretty much starting to just go downhill. It was really disintegrating. Dr. Michael Farrar was a very successful heart specialist, and he worked at the North Kansas City Hospital. It is said that he would work very long hours, oftentimes sacrificing, family time and time with his children. My mom's a nurse, so, I know how it goes. A lot of times people that work in the medical field, especially like heart specialists and doctors that are specialized in certain types of operations, they are never really off because they are on call. And that means that basically when there's emergency or when they're needed, they have to come into work because they're a specialist. So there are very few people that can cover their job position, that can step in for them. So yeah, oftentimes he had to sacrifice. Now, Deborah, on the other hand, had quit her own medical practice right after the children were born. She was really struggling with depression. She had gained some weight and she didn't like that about herself. And allegedly, she developed an alcohol problem. Now, according to friends and family members, Deborah was really difficult and she just became even more difficult. Her behavior was just getting really bad. So she was really going through it, and gosh, I kind of wonder, like, did she have postpartum depression? Maybe that's what happened, that she had postpartum depression, and maybe because this was like earlier on, like 1995, maybe it wasn't really like recognized or out there like that. But a lot of women do go through a postpartum depression. If she did have it, nobody really knew, so she didn't get any help. She wasn't diagnosed, which is kind of sad. So yeah, Michael and Deborah was having some really bad times. They were having a tough time. They were having some problems. He didn't really understand what was going on with her depression, and he kind of felt, you know, a little bit like left out and pushed away by her because of what she was going through, and he didn't understand it. I'm not okaying any of the behavior that he does next, but you know, the two of them wanted to work things out between them, so they decided to go on a school trip with their son Tim. This trip was in Peru, y'all. Ooh, I would love to go to Peru or just travel anywhere right now. I've been in California, stuck in my apartment for I don't know how long, 2 years. So they went on this trip to Peru in hopes to rekindle their relationship, you know, get some things going, get some juices flowing. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on here. Literally, YouTube demonetizes every single video that I post. While sightseeing on this trip, a very attractive blonde caught Michael's eye. Now, she was the mother of one of the other students that was also on the trip. She was also a nurse, and when they returned home, Michael didn't stop seeing her. He continued to see his little friend and chat with his little friend, and eventually their relationship develops into a sexual relationship. Now, Deborah quickly realized he was having an affair because of, like, you know, she saw stuff. You know when you know. She pretty much saw that he was starting to keep himself up. He was buying new clothes, new outfits. He was just doing a lot of different stuff around her that made her feel like something was going on. Also, he wasn't spending a lot of time with her. He was very cold to her. He was very cold to the children. And when it became just so obvious, she moved into a spare bedroom in their home. Around this time, Deborah's drinking problems started to get really bad. It was just getting worse and worse. I mean, she was trying to deal with this whole thing, and it was hard for her. But Deborah wasn't the only one having problems. Michael had developed an unusual illness. He was vomiting. He had diarrhea, and he was going through some really severe chills right after the couple's return from Peru. Now, the symptoms were so bad that he was admitted into the hospital, but they could not determine the cause of his illness. Now, they suspected that he had caught some really bad foreign parasite or something like that. Michael started losing weight rapidly. He dropped down to a whopping 125 pounds. Now, after Michael was released from the hospital, he moved across town and was planning on getting a divorce. Deborah was not happy about this at all. Friends and family members say she became increasingly depressed to the point where she couldn't even leave her own bedroom. She would lock herself away for days at a time, just drinking alone by herself in her room, locked away. I don't know what the kids were doing. And I can't even imagine. And Michael, you know, even though he had moved into his own apartment and he was talking to another person, he still cared about her. He was very concerned about her, as well as the safety of the children, obviously. One day, while visiting the home, as he would often do to, you know, just check up on the kids and on Deborah to make sure everything was okay, he noticed something suspicious in Deborah's purse. Now, what were you doing looking in her purse? I mean, I have to question it. My boyfriend would never go in my purse. There's times when I'd be like, hey, can you get this? It's in my purse. Just grab it and bring it to me. He'll bring me the whole purse, okay, before he goes through it and pull the item out. He will not go in my purse. Like, what was he looking for? I don't know. So while he was in her purse snooping around, he discovered some packets of castor bean. And like, it wasn't just one pack of castor bean, it was like a handful of packs of castor beans. That's what I'm trying to say. On the packets of the castor beans was a warning label that said that the castor beans were poisonous. Michael initially suspected that his wife, Deborah, was planning to commit suicide. He was going around telling all of his friends that he was pretty sure that she was gonna do it. Friends of theirs who were also in the medical field doubted that Deborah would ever commit suicide by poisoning herself with castor beans because they just felt it was too brutal of a way to die, especially her being an oncologist, having access to multiple different tools to use to commit suicide. Why would she choose castor beans of all things? It's just too brutal. It happens over time and the side effects are just terrible. Taking their thoughts into consideration, Michael decided to do his own investigation. He found a receipt in Deborah's purse that said that Deborah had purchased the castor beans just 4 days before Michael got sick. Being in the medical field, he had tons of medical books about drugs and stuff like that. When he looked up castor beans, he was shocked to find that castor beans contained ricin, a deadly toxin with no known antidote. It stated that the symptoms included nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and gastrointestinal bleeding. So pretty much shitting yourself to death. I don't know what to think about that. Like, that is literal evil right there. That is literal evil. I tell you, a woman's scorn, don't mess with it. So Michael, being a doctor, decided to test his own blood because he had access to the medical materials anyway. So he might as well just go ahead and test his own blood. I probably would have done the same thing. Although, is that appropriate? Like, I don't know. I'm not in the medical field. So if any of you are in the medical field, let me know in the comments down below. Is that okay? Is it ethical? Is that a thing? I don't know. I feel like it's illegal, but it might not be. So Michael sent his blood to a lab. The only problem was ricin leaves the body quickly, so the lab couldn't find any traces of it in his blood system. Now, although Michael had no proof, he literally had zero, he was convinced that his wife Deborah had poisoned him. And a few days later, on October 24th, he confronted her over the phone. Michael was so angry and he went off. He told her how angry he was. He accused her of poisoning him. He called her crazy. Never call a woman crazy. Ever. I don't condone what she did, but never call a woman crazy. Because that is the #1 way to push her off the rails. Is to just say that one word, crazy. Whatever craziness you thought you saw, that word just triggers all of the craziness to its fullest extent. Now it's time to go into the palette. I'm thinking to go a little bit more Avril Lavigne, a little more punk rock, early 2000s. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I know she wore a lot of dark eyeshadow or just like dark eyeliner, so I kind of want to do that, like a little Green Day moment, but I don't know if I can pull it off. But anyway, back to the story. An hour later, after their phone conversation around midnight, a fire broke out in the Farrar home. I mean, oh my God. Debbie, what are you doing? Like, now by the time the firemen arrived, the house was completely engulfed in flames. One firefighter said he had never seen a fire spread so quickly through a home. So they knew right away that something wasn't right. What happened here? It looks like a bug bit me or something. Now, Deborah and her 10-year-old daughter, Jennifer, was the only two to escape. When police brought Deborah in for questioning, they told her some tragic news. That Tim and Kelly, her other 2 children, had died in the fire. And oh my God, the rendition that this woman put on, it is honestly so disgusting. You guys really need to go and watch that interview yourself. You could just tell she was lying. Like, I'll try to do my best rendition of her, but I'm telling you, it's not gonna come anywhere near what this lady was doing. Like, not even close. So she was like, oh my God, not beautiful Tim and beautiful Kelly. You mean they're both dead? She goes on to say, Jesus Christ, did they make any attempt to save them at all? Her behavior was so overdone that the police was not buying that. Police found that Kelly had died from smoke inhalation, probably in her sleep. She died in her bed, while 13-year-old Tim had burned to death. I just want to say I'm really sorry about the construction, you guys. Investigators immediately suspected arson, and Debora Green became their prime suspect. Michael was also a suspect, as investigators believe both had a motive. So police decided to take a closer look at Deborah and Michael's estranged relationship. During their investigation, they discovered just a few weeks before the fire that Michael had gone to the house and he and Deborah had gotten into a really bad argument again. He claimed that she was intoxicated, angry, and threatening to kill herself. So the police was called and they came out and took Deborah to the hospital for a psych evaluation. So the medical physician on duty spoke with Deborah. She started asking her, she asked her, a bunch of questions, just the usual questions like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you okay? What's going on? And as she asked Deborah these questions, she became skeptical that Deborah was even having some sort of psychotic breakdown or episode. It seemed as though Deborah was just mad that she didn't really have any psychological issues and that she wasn't planning on actually committing suicide. And just as she was talking with Deborah, Michael walked into the room, and as soon as Michael walked in, Deborah jumped up from her seat, and it was so abrupt and so wild and crazy that the physician said she got scared. She got nervous, she was scared that Deborah was about to attack him, physically assault Michael. So she tried to grab Deborah, to hold on to her. So she thought Deborah was going to hit Michael, but she didn't. She just walks over to him and spits on him, and she starts cursing at him, calling him all kinds of names in the book, you know what I mean? And she's just going off on Michael, and she said, "You'll get those kids over their dead bodies." Just implement it yourself, girl. When police confronted Deborah with this, she told them that she had just said that in the heat of the moment. She was really angry at that time, and that she wasn't ever planning to do anything to harm her children, and that she didn't have anything to do with starting the fires. She told them she was asleep when the fire alarms went off, and she jumped out of bed and ran towards her door. But when she opened the door to her bedroom, she just saw a whole bunch of fire and smoke, so she closed the door back. There was another door in Deborah's room that led directly outside, so she managed to escape that way. She told her son Tim to stay inside until the firemen arrived. Then she claims that she ran to the neighbor's house for help. To find out whether an accelerant or flammable liquid was used to ignite the fire, police had to bring in arson investigators. Arson investigators brought in special trained dogs. Now, these dogs were trained to identify vapors after a fire. I mean, that's so cool. I think Lucy could do that. Honestly, she could be a good, investigator cat. These dogs identified and pointed out a number of specific areas. The first thing investigators found were these plastic containers that could have possibly been used to carry flammable liquids throughout the house. The next thing they found was an empty bottle of alcohol laying right behind Dr. Farrar's desk. They thought that this also could have been used to, ignite the fire as well. And then they went down into the basement, and on the basement floor, they found what appeared to be a pour pattern where accelerant had been ignited. The accelerant gave investigators another clue, a clear path that led directly back to, you guessed it, Debora Green's bedroom. And the DNA pattern found on the bedroom door contradicted Debora Green's story. Debora Green told police that her bedroom door was closed when the fire alarm sounded, and that she closed the door before running outside the bedroom. But the carpeting in the bedroom underneath the door revealed that the door had actually been open, and the door jamb revealed the same thing. Forensic scientists found that if the door had been closed, then the door jamb would have been protected from the fire, instead of being completely covered in soot. Girl, I don't even know what we're doing over here. Like, I'm trying to smoke this out, but I don't even know what smoking means. In the bathroom, they found Deborah's robe wrapped in a ball on the floor. Now, on the side of the robe was burn marks. This told them that whoever was wearing the robe had to have been really close to the fire. Neighbors told police that Deborah's hair was wet when she ran over to their house. This wasn't really a surprise to the arson investigators. They believe that when she ignited the fire, that one of the sparks were so big that it kind of singed her hair on one side of her head. So detectives got a warrant and took a sample of Deborah's hair. I mean, if this did happen and her hair was singed, it would show signs of it. So a microscopic analysis revealed that Deborah's hair did show signs of heat damage. Now, it's funny because Deborah did have her hair cut for her children's funeral, and so this does make sense. But the damage on her hair, they say, was extensive. Not the typical damage you would get on your hair for using a flat iron. It was from some high, velocity flame. So investigators brought in a forensic chemist. His job was to analyze the debris found in the fire at the Farrar's home. Now, the fire debris are kept in these metal-like containers, and this is to help seal in the fumes or vapors that may be still lingering on the evidence. They remove the air from the canisters and they heat them to about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If the vapors contain accelerants or hydrocarbons, they're trapped inside a charcoal filter. Then they rinse the filters with a neutral solvent called carbon disulfide. The mixture is placed into a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer for analysis. And just 2 days later, they found what they were looking for. They found an accelerant called isoparaffin. According to this forensic scientist, isoparaffin is often used in odorless charcoal lighting fluid. It just so happened that they found an empty plastic bottle of charcoal lighter fluid on the garage of the Farrar's home. Investigators were convinced that Debora Green was their woman. She was the one who had started the fire and murdered her own 2 children. The only question that remained was, had she tried to kill her husband with castor beans? Now, although Michael was convinced that Deborah was poisoning him and he told this to police, investigators didn't know where to start with this because there was no traces of ricin in Michael's blood. They sent the samples over to the FBI lab in Washington. Ricin is an antigen that causes the breakdown of red blood cells at the tissue level. If the dose is large enough, it can be fatal. When the antigen enters the body, the immune system's response is to fight off that invading organism. To find out if Michael had ricin in his system, they used a technique called ELISA, which stands for Enzyme-Linked Immunosorbent Assay. A 96-well plastic plate was coated with solution. Their theory was that any ricin found in Michael's blood would adhere to the ricin found on the plastic plate. And what do you know? Bingo! That's exactly what happened. Next, they compared the blood of goats that had been exposed to a small portion of ricin to Michael's blood. It appeared they had the same antibodies in their system, antibodies that are designed and structured to attack invading enzymes. They also found that Michael's blood contained a tremendous amount of ricin, about 3 times the fatal dose. Thanks to forensic science and some good police work, Dr. Debora Green was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and 2 counts of first-degree murder. Debora Green's trial was scheduled to begin just 1 week after Michael's brain surgery. He had brain damage from being poisoned, but the trial never took place. Debora Green pleaded no contest to the charges, avoiding a death sentence. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 40 years. What do you guys think about this case and my makeup look? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, check out my last videos. I'll leave it linked somewhere on the screen. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next Friday with another Forensic Friday episode. Bye!